How to never get angry or bothered by anyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I remember sitting across from a leader once, someone who ran a fast-paced, high-stress organization. His phone was buzzing, his assistant was rushing in and out, and deadlines were flying past him like arrows, yet he was calm, peaceful, even. And I asked him, how do you stay so composed? How do you not get angry with the chaos around you? He smiled and he said, because I've decided not to give anyone the power to control how I feel. That moment changed something in me. Let's be honest, we all get angry, we all get bothered. Why? Because someone cuts us off in traffic. Because someone posts something on social media we don't agree with. Because someone says something that hits a nerve. Most people walk through life unknowingly handing over their emotional remote control to everyone they meet. A stranger cuts them off in traffic and suddenly their day is ruined. A coworker makes a passive remark and they carry that frustration into every meeting. A friend forgets to text back and they spiral into doubt and overthinking. This is what happens when we give others the power to dictate how we feel, when our emotions are owned by anyone but us. But here's a truth we rarely pause to consider. No one can make us feel anything without our permission. Emotions are responses, not commands. Yes, people can trigger us. Yes, situations can be challenging. But between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our power to choose. Most of us never use that power. Instead, we operate on autopilot, letting the world press our buttons, assuming there's no alternative. Imagine for a second, giving someone a physical remote control to your emotional state. Now, every time they press a button, anger, sadness, frustration, you react exactly as they want. Sounds absurd, right? But this is precisely what we do when we let someone's words, tone, or behavior instantly alter our inner peace. We become emotionally hijacked, and over time, we lose a sense of control over our own lives. The way out of this cycle is awareness. It starts with recognizing the pattern, catching the moment your peace begins to slip because of someone else's behavior. That's the crack where change begins. You pause, you breathe, you ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this something I want to carry? And more often than not, the answer is no. There's incredible strength in choosing not to react. It's not weakness. It's not passivity. It's mastery. It's saying, I see what's happening. I acknowledge it, but I won't let it disturb the calm I've built within myself. That decision isn't always easy. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to let go of ego. Because the ego wants to defend, to fight, to prove a point. But peace, real peace, comes from realizing you don't need to respond to every insult or inconvenience. You don't need to participate in every argument you're invited to. You regain control when you stop reacting and start responding. And response is always a choice. You can choose to protect your inner world, to keep it sacred, even when the external world is chaotic. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you honor them enough not to hand them over to just anyone. So the next time you feel anger bubbling up or frustration knocking on your door, ask yourself, who holds the remote? If it's not you, it's time to take it back. Because your peace isn't cheap, it's earned. And no one should have the power to steal it unless you give it to them. We spend so much of our energy trying to change people, wishing they would act differently, speak more kindly, be more understanding, or just behave the way we think they should. But the truth is, people will be who they are. They'll say what they want, act based on their own beliefs, and often operate from a place of stress, insecurity, or pain. If our emotional well-being depends on their behavior, we've already lost control. What if, instead of trying to manage or control other people, we focused on controlling the one thing we truly can, our perspective? Everything we feel, anger, frustration, sadness, even joy, is filtered through the lens of our interpretation. Two people can experience the exact same event and walk away with completely different emotional reactions. Why? because what happened isn't nearly as important as what we think happened. Our perspective creates our reality. Let's say someone interrupts you in a meeting. You might immediately think they don't respect me and feel irritated. But someone else might interpret the same moment as they're just excited to share their idea and feel nothing at all. The event is the same, the meaning we assign to it is different, and that meaning determines how we feel. Most of our emotional discomfort doesn't come from the event, it comes from the story we tell ourselves about the event. That's where the work lies. If we can learn to pause and question our interpretations, we create space to shift them. We can move from they're trying to disrespect me to maybe they're having a tough day. We can move from they don't care about me to maybe they're just distracted. This isn't about being naive or letting people walk all over you. It's about reclaiming your peace by refusing to jump to the worst conclusion. When you control your perspective, you stop being a victim of other people's moods or behaviors. You start becoming the author of your own experience. Perspective also builds empathy. When you stop personalizing everything, you start understanding that most people's actions are about them, not you. They might be projecting, defending, overcompensating, or simply unaware. Once you see that, you stop trying to control their behavior and start controlling your reaction. And here's the beauty of it. When you lead with perspective instead of judgment, you show up differently. You become more grounded, more understanding, more composed. People start to trust you more. You become the calm in the chaos. That's leadership. That's emotional intelligence. So instead of saying, they made me feel this way, pause and ask, what story am I telling myself right now? That simple question is a doorway to freedom. Because if the story is yours, you can rewrite it. In the end, it's not about changing others. It's about changing how you see. Because once you master your perspective, no one can shake your peace without your permission. One of the most liberating truths you can accept is this: most people are not reacting to you, they're reacting to themselves, their own fears, insecurities, past traumas, and unresolved issues. What they project onto you is often a mirror of what they're struggling with internally. The criticism, the passive-aggressive comments, the sudden outbursts, they usually have very little to do with who you are or what you've done, and far more to do with what they're carrying inside. When someone lashes out at you or behaves in a way that feels unfair or disrespectful, our natural instinct is to take it personally. We internalize it. We replay the moment in our heads over and over again, trying to decode it. Why did they say that? What did I do wrong? But when we shift our mindset and realize they might be speaking from a place of pain, it changes everything. Think about it. Hurt people hurt people. Insecure people often tear others down to feel a momentary sense of power. People who feel unseen often interrupt or dominate conversations to feel noticed. It's not always malicious, it's often unconscious. They're acting out of habit, out of defense mechanisms formed long before they even met you. Understanding this doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it does explain it. And that explanation gives you clarity. It gives you distance. When you understand that someone's anger or bitterness isn't actually about you, you can stop carrying the emotional weight of their reaction. You don't have to defend yourself, fix them, or get drawn into their storm. You can just observe it for what it is, a projection. This awareness gives you power, not power over them, but power within yourself. The power to stay calm, the power to choose compassion over conflict, the power to step back instead of snapping back. That doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect or let people cross your boundaries, but it means you respond from a place of clarity, not chaos. You don't match their energy. You stay in control of your own. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to say, this is not mine to carry. You're not responsible for healing someone else's wounds or making sense of their projections. You're responsible for protecting your peace and honoring your values. What would happen if the next time someone triggered you, you paused and asked, what might they be going through right now? That question doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It creates space for understanding instead of escalation. And often, it's in that space that real growth happens. When people throw negativity your way, don't absorb it, observe it. Remind yourself, this isn't about me, it's about what they're battling inside. Once you see that clearly, their words lose their sting and their actions lose their grip. And you stay grounded, untangled, and free. There's a big difference between reacting and responding. And understanding that difference can transform the way you live and lead. Reacting is immediate, it's emotional, it's instinctual. It's what happens when someone says something sharp and you snap back without thinking, or when something doesn't go your way and frustration spills out before you even process what's really happening. Reactivity is easy. It doesn't take strength, it takes no self-awareness, it's the path of least resistance. But responding is intentional, it's thoughtful, it's grounded in self-control and emotional intelligence. It means you've taken a moment to breathe, to assess, to understand before you act. And that small pause, just a few seconds, can be the difference between escalating a conflict or de-escalating it, between losing your peace or holding on to it. Anyone can react. Children react, animals react, but to respond, that takes maturity, that takes leadership. True leadership, whether at work, at home, or in your own personal growth, begins with the ability to stay centered when everything around you is trying to pull you off balance. The challenge is that we're conditioned to react. We live in a world of instant everything, instant messaging, instant feedback, instant gratification. So we also default to instant emotion. But just because a reaction feels justified doesn't mean it's wise. Just because someone provokes you doesn't mean you owe them a piece of your mind. What you owe is a commitment to your higher self, a version of you that isn't dictated by the energy of others. Think of a thermostat versus a thermometer. A thermometer simply reflects the temperature, it reacts to the environment. A thermostat, on the other hand, sets the temperature. It leads. It creates consistency. Be the thermostat, set the tone, decide how you want to show up, regardless of how others behave. This isn't about suppressing how you feel. It's about learning to own how you feel so you can respond from a place of wisdom, not woundedness. Emotional strength doesn't mean you don't feel anger or frustration. It means you don't let those feelings control your behavior. It means you can sit with discomfort, observe it, and then choose how to act in a way that aligns with your values, not your impulses. When you choose to respond instead of react, you send a message, not just to others, but to yourself. You remind yourself that you are in control, that you don't have to be dragged around by every emotion or every person who tries to push your buttons. You set a new standard for how you engage with the world. And the truth is, people respect that. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They feel your groundedness, they feel your presence, and that kind of calm is magnetic, it's rare, and it's powerful. So the next time life tries to trigger you, remember, reaction is ordinary, response is leadership, and leadership starts with the space between what happens and what you choose to do next. When life gets chaotic, when people disappoint you, challenge you, or push your buttons, there's only one thing that can truly keep you steady. Knowing who you are and what you stand for, that's your anchor, that's your foundation. When you're deeply rooted in your values and your vision, the noise of the world loses its power over you. You stop swaying with every opinion, every conflict, every mood in the room. You become grounded. Most people live reactively because they don't have a strong sense of direction. They're not anchored. So when someone criticizes them, it shakes their self-worth. When someone disagrees, it feels like a personal attack. When plans change or someone disappoints them, they lose balance. But when you live from a place of clarity, when you know what matters to you, what kind of person you're committed to being, You stop giving so much weight to other people's behavior. Your values act as a compass. If one of your values is kindness, then when someone is rude, you don't mirror that rudeness. You return to kindness, not because they deserve it, but because you are committed to living in alignment with who you are. If one of your values is integrity, you don't compromise that just to win an argument or prove a point. You stay true to yourself, even when it's hard. And your vision, your bigger picture, gives meaning to the small moments. When you're clear on your purpose, the little distractions, the daily frustrations, they don't carry as much weight. If your vision is to build a meaningful life, lead others, or grow into your best self, then you don't get sidetracked by gossip, pettiness, or ego battles. You see those things for what they are: noise. Think of it like this: storms will always come. That's life. People will offend you, challenge you, misunderstand you, but if your roots go deep into your values and your vision, those storms won't uproot you. You might sway, you might bend, but you won't break. You'll stay anchored. This doesn't mean you become emotionless or detached. It means you develop inner resilience. You learn to respond, not react. You stop looking to other people to validate your worth or dictate your mood. You begin to live from the inside out. And that kind of stability is rare, it's powerful, it inspires trust. When others see that you're not easily shaken, they lean on you. You become a steady presence in a world that's often unpredictable. So ask yourself, what are my values? What do I believe in so deeply that no one can talk me out of it? What kind of person do I want to be, even when it's hard? The answers to those questions will ground you, they'll guide you, they'll protect you from being pulled in 100 directions by the expectations, emotions, and reactions of others. When you're anchored in your values and vision, you don't chase peace. It lives within you, and no one can take it away. There will always be storms in life. People will criticize you, misunderstand you, speak to you in ways that trigger something inside. There will be days when things don't go as planned, when someone brings negativity into your space, or when pressure builds until it feels like it's too much. In those moments, you have a choice. You can get pulled into the chaos, or you can be the calm. Most people don't realize they have that choice. They believe that when someone brings drama or anger, they have to match it, that if someone raises their voice, they need to raise theirs too. But real strength lies not in reacting to the storm, but in staying centered in the middle of it. That calmness, that grounded presence is a form of leadership. It doesn't shout, it doesn't prove, it influences simply by being unshakable. Being the calm doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you respond with clarity instead of emotion. It means you see beyond the surface of what's happening and understand that most people who bring chaos are dealing with battles you can't see. You're overwhelmed, insecure, or hurt. And when you react to that, you're not solving anything. You're just amplifying the noise. But when you choose calm, you shift the energy. You set a new tone. You create space for better conversations, for understanding, for growth. And people feel it. Whether they say it or not, they notice when someone doesn't get rattled. They trust that. They gravitate toward it. Because calm is rare. Calm is steady. Calm feels safe. The truth is, peace isn't something you find when everything around you is perfect. Peace is something you create by the way you show up, no matter what's going on around you. And that starts with a decision to not let other people's chaos dictate your emotional state. This is a skill. It takes practice. There will be moments when staying calm feels impossible, when every part of you wants to fire back, defend yourself, or lash out. But that's where the real work is. That's where you remind yourself, I need to match their energy. I can keep mine. And every time you do that, you build more emotional discipline, more presence, more inner power. Over time, it becomes a way of being. You stop reacting to every little thing. You stop engaging in pointless arguments. You start walking away from things that steal your peace. And slowly, you become someone who doesn't just have calm, you are calm. That the person people turn to when everything's falling apart. That's the presence that inspires respect even in silence. Not because you shouted louder, but because you stood taller. Because when everyone else was caught in the storm, you became the eye of it.